I actually came across the CFA program in UE while I was doing a management degree.
I had recently graduated from University of the West Indies with a degree in business management. I wanted to further my career in the finance field.
I had finished my first degree in management studies and I wanted to pursue a postgraduate qualification.
I was doing a program called Portfolio Management. I really liked that course, even though I came from a science background.
It was a book by Professor Riley. He had a single page that described the CFA program. We found it really interesting. We liked the program. We loved investments. The only thing we needed was a first degree.
It was touted to be the equivalent of an MBA. I was about 4 years into my banking career, gaining in investment banking and corporate finance. And I guess I was bitten by the academic bug.
I was working in finance and I felt that I needed to have a qualification.
I was doing pretty much administrative roles, reporting, and I wanted to get into like account executive and the fancier, sexier stuff.
We were developing a system for a mutual fund company. And as a systems analyst, I needed to understand the business better.
My first set of working experience was always involved in the financial services industry. It just felt like a natural fit.
I was working at the bank for a number of years and I moved to an area that has responsibility for managing the foreign currency reserves of the country. Of course, we want our reserves to be managed at the best international standards for investment management.
I was looking for something that blended really holistically with the local market, able to make sense of what markets throw at you on a daily basis.
I started in a unit called Corporate Finance Advisory. That kind of opened up my eyes to the fact that there's a whole world, investment, there's valuation, stock market, and I needed to understand that world better.
Good old fashioned, we wrote a letter, put some stamps on it. We got a nice big envelope with an application form and everything, telling us that if we wanted to do this thing, sending the application with a check and we will be started.
So the year was 1995.
I enrolled in August 1996. Telling you my age.
In 1998, in Jamaica, I was the third person to achieve the charter.
Still quite early days in those times, not a widely popular program, especially locally.
It was a very small group of us that really started this thing.
You could maybe have counted on your fingers the number of charter holders.
Community were friends.
I got the designation in 1999 and we had to wait until there were 10 CFA charter holders before we could have petitioned to form our own local chapter at the time.
It was a group of people that were very dedicated to what I would call a very specialized profession.
And I think out of that initial bonding, we realized that we needed to form something like a society.
The CFA Society in Trinidad and Tobago was founded in 2001.
We had started a chapter in Jamaica, so I had the contacts with the institute at that time, which was called AIMR, Association for Investment Management and Research. And eventually it changed to CFA Institute. They were very kind enough to give us the opportunity to set up a chapter in Trinidad. It was called Trinidad and Tobago Chapter of Investment Professionals. And I think we were the 100th society among all the world societies.
I recall in the early days getting a challenge to even to have a quorum for board meetings and for AGMs and so on. We struggled, we stayed the course. We knew that we were building something bigger for Trinidad and Tobago.
During those first 10 years at least, a lot of volunteer spirit. We got things done by ourselves, no administration. So these are all members with full-time jobs.
People may have seen it as elite, but it was brand new in this country. Jamaica was ahead of us alone. Maybe Barbados.
Individuals that successfully complete the program would have a certain level of commitment, dedication, intelligence.
We realized that we needed to network and work together.
I knew 2 people who had completed the program at that point in time. So there was not much people to go to for advice.
At that point in time, there weren't really classes offered or anything like that.
It was really you on your own going through the material.
It was self-study, books, and just go and write this ridiculously long exam and hope for the best.
Studying for the CFA, you could summarize it in 3 words: tough, tough, and tough.
Books and study guides is a very rigorous program, hours and hours of study, because you had to write an exam, and writing an exam is a little bit different from applying it in practice.
There's no shortcuts. If you really want to get value from the program, do the work.
It's not a qualification that you could go in and maybe study 2 or 3 months before and pass, right? You have to put in that dedicated time.
UWI at the campus used to find a study room, work with more materials and enough money to buy a couple doubles, and stay there from bright and early till it got dark.
Added complexity back then is that we didn't have nice pre-packaged learning material. They would send us this giant box, and when you opened it, you had a stack of books, and then you had to earmark which pages in the book that you had to go and read.
You had the big study books. I can't remember if it was Kaplan or Schweizer at that point in time.
Traveling for work, and on the plane, I have my CFA textbooks with me studying, and I had those little cassettes. Instead of listening to nice, relaxing music, going up, negotiating the traffic, I was listening to things like Monte Carlo simulations and option pricing theory and so on.
Very soon, I was able to complete level 1, 2, and 3, but with a lot of help, I must say, with review materials and other courses and all that.
It was really a weed-out process, but over the years, those 10 or 12 that stuck it out and got through to the end has grown to quite a large society now.
When I got it, it was really a badge of honor, and I protected it, and I felt it was very special.
The CFA Charter is really a foundation, and it provides a lot of the tools that you use to make sense of changes in the financial market.
The program is set up in such a way to create a framework for thinking, for problem solving, a framework for analysis.
So as regulatory changes have been coming down the pipeline as they would over the years, it kind of gave you the back end or the tenacity to just embrace, even if it may not have been in your particular area of expertise or interest, to know where you stood with those changes.
Economies have cycles, civilizations have cycles.
Regulation is natural in the financial sector.
A number of our members contributed to getting those regulations in a very robust and modern way.
Dealing with people's wealth is fiduciary responsibility. They place that trust in you.
It really is just keeping on top to understand what's happening in the market and ensuring that the investors are protected.
Being objective, and then there are conflicts of interest that you need to be aware of.
You can pass all the sections with distinction, but if you fail the ethics part, you fail the entire exam. So that is how important the ethics part was.
Wherever I worked, I would have guided the discussions around the learnings from the code and standards. And so doing so, you would have influenced decision making as far as ethical points as they come up.
As I serve both internal and then my clients on an external basis, understanding shifts, how it was impacting my clients, and then how I could at least bring some level of knowledge and awareness to that.
I recall the 1997 Asian crisis, then the 2001 Argentinian currency crisis, the dot-com boom and then bust, and then the subprime mortgage crisis came. Throughout all these periods, even though we were in the Caribbean or Trinidad and Tobago, we had the ripple effect of all of those crises in our investment portfolios. And we had our own local crises as well from time to time, which we had to weather as well. So the CFA curriculum was essential in our ability to grow as the market was growing, and also support the new regulations like the Securities Industry Act was revised, the Insurance Act was revised. So a number of our members contributed to getting those regulations in a very robust and modern way.
You're a subset of a wider investment industry, that anything happens in the rest of the world, it affects you. So it forces you to be more agile, to keep up to date with trends in technology.
People always have money and they always want to make the money work for them. So you always have needs for people like us.
As an economy, a market, as an industry, we had a deeper talent pool. You get better quality people, you get better quality products and services, more discipline and understanding, and they will just translate this in terms of investment decisions to institutions and customers.
CFA itself has encouraged a lot of innovation in terms of financial products across the globe. Part of the program basically teaches you how to structure new products.
And because we have members at all levels throughout the organization, they can provide input and shape how policies and procedures are implemented at the end of the day.
We started being tapped on our shoulders to take a look at the development of the legislation that was occurring at the same time. So as the SIA was being developed, as the SEC was being formed, as the stock exchange began to take a more active role in what it was doing, CFA charter holders reached out to the CFA Institute to get their input on what we could do here in Trinidad.
You had new mutual fund products coming on the market, which would have helped with diversification even of investment portfolios and so on. Reporting standards, they have increased over the years. Better reporting standards, you get better transparency, and that in turn invites more investments to come into the system and a wider investor pool.
The birth of the CFA Society gave birth to a number of other institutions in Trinidad and Tobago. For instance, CARICRIS, the first and the only regional credit rating agency, came out of CFA Society members. The Securities Dealers Association came into being, followed by the Mutual Fund Association, and the International Financial Center that was set up, was also an initiative coming out of members of the CFA Society, so to speak.
Investment decision-making process in terms of advocacy, lobbying regulators to put in place, best practices when it comes to the investment decision-making process. Those things generate a lot of confidence among investors. That in itself would lead to increased placements into these types of vehicles. That is one of the benefits that the CFA Charter and the local CFA Society has had over the last 20 years.
The great thing about the CFA Charter is that it's constantly evolving, and therefore it's always going to be relevant to persons engaging in the program.
It's because of that very active interaction with members on the ground that the program is kept fresh.
One of the commitments you make as a CFA charter holder is to continue professional development. The hot topics and so were what they were then, but they change over time.
I think continuous learning and being curious is a critical success factor for life.
The CFA Institute, they do a lot of polls and so on, and they have interviews with market practitioners just to find out what are the financial themes that are trending right now.
Because if they want the investment professionals to keep pace with the industry, then you have to take into consideration all of these developments within it.
The program actually recognizes that we've gone from just being pure investment analysts to also being investment advisors. And then with the same skills and core body of knowledge, you have analysts, charter holders who on the other side able to address the needs of capital users.
Keep abreast of AI, keep abreast of fintech, keep abreast of ESG, and understands how an individual in the area is meant to work as a professional services body that is kind of shaping what that educational curriculum could look like.
I come back to the root. Knowledge is power. But we certainly must understand the change globally in order for us to benefit locally in whatever areas of decision we are making.
So it gives you the knowledge then to see what is being done globally as best practice and to then adopt it into the local market.
This is how we generate the value for the investing public, for the regulators, for our employers, for all stakeholders, right? And this is how we continue to add value over time.
We are part of the global landscape, and we should be contributing to its overall preservation.
Not only to create opportunities and support the members, but help in creating the infrastructure in the Caribbean and in particular Trinidad and Tobago.
We are fiduciaries, so you have to ensure that you do the right thing.
Remember, someone is coming to you to be a custodian of their funds, if it's their pensions, their long-term investments. So having folks with high integrity and character allows greater trust to be placed into the system. And it then allows the system to grow. When you have individuals who, by definition, all are ethically sound and rigorous and robust, and who believe in having ethical standards, not because they have to pass an exam, but because it is who they are, then the conversations are different.
The CFA program is the gold standard really for the investment management world, and so You know, whichever part of the Caribbean you go to, and indeed globally, you will be recognized as a charter holder, as being on top of your game, essentially.